Please don't hear any of this, Brad.
And Dad's like, I got the fuck out of there. I was like, oh man, you didn't partake?
Do you fear death?
Oh, one of the greatest lines of all time.
I could have chopped it. I could have chopped it.
Trumpinator 2020.
Making me 30 sides of red sauce.
Listened to so much. Are you
That needs two, motherfucker.
Well, what's up, brother? Episode 73. And you were one of my first guests. You and Nicole. Back in May.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does fly. Like we got another Derm Fest we got to start talking about too.
Yes, we do.
Started looking over some of the tracks that we haven't played over the last couple, like Miles Above, Just the Way You Are. We used to play those.
Yeah, and I'd like to bring some of those back.
I agree. Like to start mixing it in. I think Walt's going to play a song with me again this time.
Cool.
That'll be fun.
And I was impressed by him.
He's better than I am. Like legit. Like and you know, it's that thing. It's all about how much time you put into it. He wanted to play aerials, and I kind of knew it, and we jammed it, and he just couldn't handle those 16. He was just all over the place. And like 2 days later, he's like, and I heard him over the weekend. Like he was just back there all day, every day, just clicking on that electronic kit. Alrighty then. But yeah, he just puts all his time and energy into it, and just practices, which is what makes you good.
Yeah, and that's kind of a little bit about what I was going to talk about.
So what's on your mind, Johnny?
It goes into that. That's just obviously, you know, you're on TikTok and social media, and you know everybody has their shtick, obviously, that they do, and you know there's a lot of great musicians that are posting a lot of stuff on TikTok and other Instagram, you know, all the big ones and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been playing a long time. I can tell a lot of these people, and I'm just going to call a lot of them kids, because that's what they are to me, kids. When I say kids, I'm referring to somebody under 30.
Yeah. That's fair.
But literally, I see teenagers, you know, doing this kind of stuff. I don't know if they just don't spend any time doing anything else but playing guitar, for example. You know, there's some good drummers, you know, all sorts of musicians, but, you know, obviously my emphasis is on guitar because I play guitar. And so algorithms know that, you know, I like to check out guitar players and stuff. Yeah. So the kids I'm seeing playing today, and obviously it's not all of them, but there's a big chunk that are good enough to actually probably make somewhat of a living just doing it on social media because they're so good.
Yeah.
Have gotten so technical.
Yeah.
In how they play. I mean, these kids are running scales that I don't even know exist, and they're running them 5 times as fast as my fingers have ever been able to move.
I don't know if that's humanly possible, but so you're pretty damn fast.
These kids make me want to put my guitar down. Let's just put it that way. And it just fascinates me. I love, you know, as you know, I'm an 80s hair metal guy because that's when I grew up and that's what I learned playing guitar on. And
which is ironic because you have no hair.
Yeah, but I could put a wig on.
You could put a... You look sexy in a wig. I think I've seen you in a wig before. We've done wigs.
You'd hit on me.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you would.
Yeah.
Well, you hit on me anyway. But
yeah, not exactly. So it's just a
if
bonus.
I put a wig on, oh man, from behind, you can, yeah. But you know, the generation I grew up on started shred, if you will.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm just going to call it shred for lack of a better term.
I'm talking about like the Iron Maidens coming in the early '80s, or
Iron Maidens. You know, great guitarist, Agent Smith, Dave Murphy. but I mean, the original masters of shred, like Yngwie, Paul
Yeah.
Gilbert, Marty Friedman.
Oh, Marty Friedman. Yeah, he was.
You
he
know,
was
we had,
amazing.
of course, Eddie. You know, I don't really consider Eddie a shredder like those guys because Eddie just had his own shtick and he made it amazing. And he's just a whole different level and different kind of awesomeness.
I didn't have that crate blue voodoo when we met, did I? I think I already sold it.
I think you had already sold.
Yeah.
It.
So it was the Marty
'cause
Friedman.
You were playing.
I was
that
playing
when
the
we met.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So you know, we had some great technical guitarists back in the day, and you know that's what I grew up in. You know, I got a lot of my influences from a lot of those guys. Of course, I couldn't play quite like them, especially back then.
Right.
But those were my influences, and those were what I aspired and what I practiced to.
Right.
Kind of how I learned and got a lot of my chops.
How
from.
did you learn that fast stuff back then? Because you didn't have the internet. You weren't able to watch a breakdown on it. There wasn't tabs available everywhere. Did you just pick it up on ear? Or?
We had tabs.
Did you have tabs?
Yeah.
Okay.
We absolutely had tabs. So, well, I say that. We had tabs in the mid... I'm going to say we started getting the internet and tabs in mid-90s-ish. That's really kind of when the internet really kicked in.
I mean, I remember you could get the tab books in the early 90s, but I didn't know if they had
Yeah.
those back in the early 80s, too.
Not in the 80s.
Right.
They weren't nearly as readily available. And I'm going to be honest, I think that benefited me hugely in learning how to play by ear.
Yeah.
Because I had to listen and figure out
Very
what
keenly.
they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I attribute my ability to play by ear a lot to not having a lot of those tools that people have today.
Do you remember? I don't know if we've told this on a pod or not. Do you remember that time we were opening up for Hunker Down, and they used to play "I Want You to Want Me," and we also covered it. And I remember telling you, I said, you know, he's playing that wrong, and you said he's always played it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why don't you tell him? It's just because it makes us sound better. That was hilarious.
Why would I
He's
tell
one of your
him?
best friends, and you're like, I'm not even going to tell him.
No,
What happened to him anyway? Where's Freddie?
Oh, he's just working.
But he's still around this area?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's. I know he moved, but he still lives in Tawny Town, so he's
Nice.
still around. I haven't talked to him in a good minute. But yeah,
We need to
he's
have you guys
still
on
around.
together. Have you guys do a pod.
That'd
Tell
be
some old
cool.
stories. That'd be fun.
Oh, we got some old
I
stories.
bet you do. So anyway, go back to what you were saying. So you're talking about it forced you to develop your ear.
Yes. And it also forced you to improvise if there's just a part that you couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
Then, and your, you know, my first year and a half of playing, I actually took lessons. And if I couldn't figure something out.
Where'd you take them?
Larry Height.
Okay.
Yeah. Sigler.
Yep.
Way back in the day.
Yep. No, Larry.
As you know, he was phenomenal. He could play anything. He was kind of like Roy Clark.
Right.
Just a phenomenal musician. But, you know, this is the era when, you know, he was naturally a blues picker. And this is the era of the 80s hair when the solos really started screaming. And I could tell when, you know, he would always have me bring something in that I wanted to learn, you know, as part of the learning experience and stuff. And so I'd bring in some docking and some other stuff, and he was able to figure a very good amount of it out. Of course,
Really?
it's all by ear.
Well, so you're also pushing him out of his comfort zone a little bit.
Yes,
I mean,
but he had a couple other guitarists that were really good that were into metal.
yeah,
I wasn't the only one.
sure, yeah,
But he was, you know, we were paying him, so he was happy to, you know,
Right.
do it and give it a shot. But where I was going with that is it taught me a lot about if I can't figure out exactly what that guitarist is doing in that spot, how can I improvise to make it sound sort of like that, or fill it up with something pretty cool. So it also helped my improv skills.
Sure.
So playing by ear, improv skills, things that we got before the technology. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna call it technology.
Yeah.
Was available.
Which it
and-
seems weird because the technology's been around for almost 30 years now. But you're about what, 10 years older than me? 8?
I'm 54.
So actually, you're 12. I'm 42. No, I just turned 43, so 11. But like I grew up without technology too. Like I was 15 or 16 when we got the internet. So
Mhm.
these kids for so long have had these tools. It's almost weird to think of
Yeah,
a time when you
I
didn't
was
have
in
them.
my 20s before I ever even had my first computer, and it was dial-up internet at that.
Oh God, yeah, it's awful.
And the content, okay, cool. We finally had the internet. There wasn't that.
Yeah.
The content wasn't there yet.
Yeah, it wasn't anything.
Now I can jump on and find any tabulature of anything I want. I can go on and find all sorts of lessons. If I wanted to learn something very specific, a technique, a new scale, whatever, it's right there for the taking. And I think that's what this new generation that I'm talking about has really wrapped their arms around and embraced the ability to use the internet and the technology. And I think that's why they are getting so good. I mean, when I say getting so good, from what I see, and I see it on a daily basis, again, going back to the Paul Gilberts and Marty Friedmans, back in the day, they were the shredders. They were the dudes. Nowadays, what they did is what 15, 16, 17-year-old kids are doing. It's like the new norm.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with all of the resources that they have at hand now. Of course, I did a lot of things when I was younger. I played all, sports and taekwondo, and I was into everything. So I wasn't just focused on one thing, which was, in this case, guitar, which
Right.
I think a lot of these guitarists now, that's all they do. I mean, to get as good as they are and to do the things they're doing, I mean, it's insane to me how technical they've gotten. I mean, I'm seeing people not just freakishly running scales, but I'm seeing weird stuff like scales and then this weird popping ting ting ting, and then throwing some really wicked tapping.
Yeah.
But they're running, you're nothing if you can't run it's 128 notes at 110 beats per minute, and technically that's flying.
Yeah.
I mean, faster than anything I could ever do.
But is there a lack of creativity behind it? 'Cause music is shit.
The thing is, that's a great question. Very great question. It depends on the guitarist.
Well, sure.
There's,
But like you said
there's
earlier,
some
when it
that
forces
just
you to have to be creative to fill in the blanks.
are just so insane in what they're doing. I'm like, that's never going to fit in a song.
Yeah.
That's not going to make. Okay, if it's your own song and if it's just an instrumental, okay. That's about the only kind of song that kind of playing is going to really fit into.
Yeah.
And if that's your stick, that's your stick. But yeah, I see players that just can fly and just ridiculously rip through scales, but that's really all they're doing.
Right.
And again, I think to myself, that's cool, that's impressive, but to me, I don't see it as tasty.
No.
But
It's
then
so, and I'll even use Zach Wilde as an example. When he
tasty.
when he first started, like the early Ozzy years, the early BLS years, Pride and Glory, man, that guy. But if you listen to the last 3 or 4 records he's done, all the solos just sound as fast as humanly possible. Like it's just the same shit. There's no soul to it. It's like he's gotten lazy.
Well, I heard actually a great interview, and I'm kind of glad you brought him up because he's one of my tops.
Yeah, I think he's one of the top 5 for sure.
He's
Him and
he's
Slash.
killer. But his interview, they were talking about his when he first got with Ozzy and how
At 19,
that sort of
right?
came around and transpired, and he actually, he said, okay, I'm sitting here thinking Ozzy wants me to try out and play for him and stuff. What can I do to be different to basically get the gig?
Yeah.
How can I separate myself from the Yngwies, the Martys, all these other great guitarists, the Lynches,
Even Randy Rhoads.
the Rhodes,
You don't want to just be a carbon copy of Randy Rhoads either.
No, and his shtick was classical. He was classically trained.
Yeah.
You could tell
Yeah.
in
Sure.
what he did, and that was his thing. And Zach was like, he was going, well, such and such does this style, such and such does this style. What can I do to be different? And then he just kind of stops and he goes, chicken picking.
Yeah. Yeah, Southern Rock.
And you'll notice on a lot of his, like you said earlier, stuff, the tasteful,
Yes.
as you said, he incorporated a lot of what he calls, and what I would consider somewhat, chicken picking.
Yeah.
And that's how
Certainly.
he set his
Oh, he
soul
started,
apart.
yeah.
Back-
Have you
back
heard the
then.
Pride and Glory album that he did? It's one of his first solo albums, but it was the band was Pride and Glory. It is a Southern Rock album. In fact, we got one of the best solos I've ever heard on it.
Really?
Oh yeah, Losing Your Mind,
I
the
need
opening
to check
track.
that out.
I actually based Sludge loosely on it because it's in drop D with a kind of an arpeggio, but it starts with a banjo. And I kind of ripped
Yeah.
that idea
Oh,
off of
okay.
him because it's so cool. We'll listen to it here in a little bit.
You thief.
We all are.
You thief. How we're all thieves.
All songwriters are.
Songwriters,
masterful
guitarists
thieves.
alike. We steal chops and licks.
Oh, absolutely.
And riffs from
Well, it's like
other guys.
the lead guitar solo to 5 to 1 by the Doors got picked up by Kiss. He used it on a song. Fraley did. And then Mike McCready stole it for Pearl Jam's 10. Or Alive. It's the same solo. All 3 of those songs. And you can go back and clearly hear it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was like Coldplay stealing that one song from Satch, and he won the lawsuit on it. It was the rhythm part, obviously, because his stuff was just instrumental, and it ended up becoming one of their biggest hits. And,
How do you feel about the whole thievery thing? It's like Jimmy Page ripped off a bunch of shit, and Zeppelin was one of the greatest bands of all time. Like Noel Gallagher of Oasis. Everybody does it.
If somebody,
Is it subconscious or conscious?
a little bit of both,
I think so. Well, certainly.
because you have in your head a lot of what you listen to, and so that's where your brain, when you're trying to come up with something, naturally can tend to go.
Yeah. It's the groove and the path.
That's why they call them influences, because they really are.
They
an
literally
influence on
influence what you do. Yeah.
and how you
Yeah.
play your own stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because George Lynch was my main guy.
Yeah?
Back when I was younger, he was my main guy. He's dropped a few levels, I think, because there's some other guitarists that I think Nuno Betancourt.
Who are your top 5?
Nuno Betancourt.
Top
Number
1? That's
He's
1.
my number 1. A guy can do anything
Yeah.
and make it tasteful. God, top 5. That's hard because there's so many. You got the Eric Johnsons of the world, the Joe Bonamasses. There's so many different styles.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a top. I mean, I almost could have a top 15 and have them all as number 1. And then another 15 is number 2. And then another 15 is number 3.
Well, how do you really feel about Jimmy Page?
He was, I think he was very, very tasteful. I loved the chops he came up with. I thought their songwriting was exceptional. Much,
Not just
much
as a lead
respect.
guitar player, but as a just the
Yeah,
chords
his
and
riffs
just
stuff.
the
He was one of the original riff masters. Is the way I like to put
absolutely. And he was way more varied than Tony Iommi. I mean, Tony Iommi, you could basically have AI right
Tony
anyway.
Iommi's not even
Way
in my
no.
top.
No, but
500.
Jimmy had such a very. I mean, they'd have country songs on records. You know, they'd have. I mean, Cashmere is very out of pocket for them. I mean, they've got a lot of weird shit that's all over the place.
Much respect for Page, because he mixed some really killer riffage with his tone was always just amazing. I don't know if you ever see him live, but man, watch him live. His tone is just rich, just big, fat Marshall, in your face tone for days.
Yeah. I've seen about every concert. Man, I used to be obsessed with them. The song remains the same. That live album. Of course, their live experience was very different because they'd play like 4 songs live and make them all 20 minutes each. They just jam forever. It's kind of obnoxious, but yeah, they had a big sound live with only one guitar. I remember Walter just the other day. We were watching with my dad the O2 concert Celebration Day they did back in like it was like 8 years ago. It's like 2017 or 2018. You know, they did the one-off show in England. Mm-hmm. And it's so incredible. And Walter asked, that's only one guitar?
Yeah.
And there really was. There wasn't like a backup dude. It was one guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Not very many guys. I mean, Dimebag Darrell maybe, Jerry Cantrell, with that kind of presence. But Jimmy was sloppy too, though. You were talking earlier about the technicality, and these guys.
He wasn't technical.
He was sloppy, but it felt right.
Yeah, and that, you know,
I prefer that all day long. The clean.
And you know, George Lynch. I'm not going to call him sloppy, but he didn't run scales like.
He's soulful. Would you use that? A
yeah,
little more.
I think
he's putting
soulful with some just killer rippage included, and he was one of my biggest influences. I wanted to say Eddie was, but I couldn't play Eddie when I was younger. I loved it, mesmerized by it, but I couldn't play it.
How old were you when you first picked up the guitar?
16.
Yeah, I think we talked about you were older than I thought you would have been because you picked it up relatively late.
86.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't pick it up.
Was that a goal to get to Van Halen? Like that's where I want to get?
That's still my goal. No, I finally figured it out. Some people are more adept at playing certain styles than others, and my brain and my fingers have a hard time playing Eddie's style. It's just not adept to how I'm.
Yeah, that makes
built.
sense. Yeah.
George
Same way with
Lynch,
guitar, yeah, or with rhythm, yeah.
I call my style power slop. I think you've heard me say that before.
You invented it, and I love it. You called us. What did you also call our Southern Fusion?
Yeah,
you remember that
yeah.
way back in the day?
That's and I still kind of, you know, when somebody says, well, "What's your sound like?" Southern alternative rock.
Southern fusion with power slop.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
That's that.
There you go. Johnny just coined it.
But
it's actually not a bad band name either. Power slop.
And I'm okay with what I do because I like it and I can do it and I can replicate it.
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully it sounds cool. But that's just my style.
And the kids used to ask me who's doing which solos. They don't need to ask anymore. I'm like, if it starts getting fast, it's not me.
but yours are so tasty. I mean, you write the solo to the song to a T. And that's one thing I've always respected your solo writing and playing is you write what really gives the song some good heart, some good feel, some
it gives
taste.
it some depth because, and our styles are so different, but they complement each other. A great example of that is the sludge solo, where we do that several times. Where I'll start out with something a little slower, more melodic, and then it builds up, and then you come in and just shred on top of it. It's beautiful. And there's not a lot of bands out there that have that kind of guitar relationship.
No, and I've always loved that dynamic. Our styles are different, but we make them work well together.
How do you approach a solo when you're, say, like Daybreak, like when you're coming up to that? Because that's an awesome solo. Like, are you just improvising at first, or are you because it takes you a while to dial it in, and then you keep fine tuning it and fine tuning it and fine tuning it.
It starts with just messing around with it. I'll listen to the backing guitar and what the band is doing. I listen to that several times to really get the melody, the tune in my head, and then I start thinking about, okay, well, what kind of solo does this song need to have? Does it need to have something that just is nice and long bended string holds, double stops, a little bit slower, a little more melodic? Is it something that just needs to shred the whole way through, or is it something that maybe needs to build up? And a lot of that comes from listening to the backtrack over and over and over and noodling, and then I just sort of come up with different parts for the different spots, because you're so good at writing backtracks that it's not always, sometimes, but not always the same thing over and over and over again behind. And that, to me, as a soloist, helps me. I like it when you change something in the middle of a solo.
Yeah. Maybe
the tempo, which we do sometimes. Maybe it's
Shoot for the Moon's a great example of that, where we have the stuff. And I just want to stop this. We're going to be, I don't want to stop the podcast and play these things. It's going to slow it down, but all these songs are available on the Durham YouTube channel. Durham's a hard one to search for, but just search Durham Carry Me Home, and it'll find the channel. The first one we were talking about is the Daybreak solo. Phenomenal solo. We're talking about Shoot for the Moon now, because you got those stop and starts, which is just really cool. And your solo, I think that's everybody in the family's favorite solo.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Shoot for the Moon?
The Shoot for the Moon. Because the rhythm's doing something cool, too. We're doing this thing, and you're playing while we stop, and then we do our... It's just a cool dynamic, which hadn't really done anything quite like that before.
Yeah, and the start and stops, gave me the ideas of, okay, well, that would sound cool right there, because I'm doing it with you guys, and so again, I start with what you write as what's going on in the background, and then I noodle and I just, again, you're right. Sometimes my solos evolve a little bit over time, because I think, well, you know what? I'm listening to that, and I think this might sound a little cooler right there.
Well, I'll just fanboy out right now and suck your dick for a minute. But I'd never had a lead guitar player before you. And we could get this on OnlyFans right now. But I'd never had a lead guitar player before, or anybody that was really better than me in the band. It was always, even when Greg was the lead guitar player, it was more of a different kind of a sound. It was...
Yeah, I remember you telling me when I first came out and jammed with you the first couple of times, you're like, I really want to find somebody that can go off if we want them to.
Yeah. Take the pressure off of me, because when I'm doing the solo, well, my style of solo. Right, if that's all you have, it limits you. And you basically just took it to the ceiling.
We now have two different styles of soloing.
Right.
And there's some songs where you're the only soloist. Some song I'm the only soloist. Sometimes we're both.
Yeah.
But it works, and
it
we
really
figure
does.
out.
And there's not any ego there, I don't think. I feel like it's like, what's best for this song?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you've known me for way long enough that there's...
It's 20 years, dude. It's been 20 years. How crazy is that?
If this lets you know anything about my ego, this is my... This is how I look at myself as a guitarist. I'm good enough to know how good I'm not.
Yeah. I think that's with anybody that's good.
And
you're still an asshole. You just don't have a big ego.
Thing.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to be.
But just to finish that. So when we were rehearsing "Carry Me Home," this would have been with Gary, because Gary didn't leave till right before we recorded it.
Right.
But we were rehearsing the songs like "Wrong" and "Carry Me Home" and all that stuff, and "Daybreak," and we'd hear these solos. and we thought they just sounded great because they were fast, but it was before you had narrowed them down. It was like you were playing them and it was awesome, but then they kept changing. It was like every practice they got a little tighter and a little tighter, or you'd add a little something, or you'd clean something up, where you might every time would be different, and now this is it.
I would decide on which.
Yeah, and we
which
of course
I like better.
we didn't fucking dare, interfere with the process. It was just like, let that guy cook. Whatever he's doing,
as Will Trent says, don't
is
mess
working.
with the process.
And those solos hold up on that. I think that album's fantastic because like I can still listen to it start to finish. No, well, I have to now because the kids blaze it all the time. And like every song, every solo, just I don't know, it was just a magical moment.
I
It all came
honestly
together,
thought
man.
My best solo work was actually done on the one we didn't release.
On Painkilled Nation.
Uh-huh.
Well, Shoot for the Moon's on that album.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy with what we both collectively did on Carry Me Home, but I'm even more happy with what we collectively did on Painkilled Nation.
So that's why I'm so eager to record the next one. Like, I want to keep pushing.
Yeah, and it's
Pushing
so
forward.
nice to have the musical outlets we have now that you don't have to go spend thousands of dollars pressing a bunch of CDs. Throw them on the
Yeah.
internet and
Just put them online.
boom. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I can go listen to all of our songs whenever I want.
Yep.
As long as I'm near a computer or my phone or whatever.
What's your favorite one to play live?
Favorite one to play live? Probably Sludge. Either Sludge or Daybreak. Daybreak for me is, I like it because people seem to like it and seem to think it sounds amazing and hard and all this kind of stuff, whereas in reality, for me, it's probably one of my easier solos.
See, it is an impressive sounding solo. Don't we do 5 measures on that solo? It's like a weird.
No idea.
One thing I used to think was cool as a kid was like I'm not a super sophisticated guitar player or songwriter, so I need to make something interesting by being creative, right? Kind of like how Zach's like, how do I make this different?
Right.
And so one of those ways, let's make the arrangement a little different. Let's go 5 measures here. Let's do this riff this way or something. And then we're rehearsing for Durham Fest. I'm like, why are these things so fucking complicated? And Gary reminded me, he's like, you always had to do something different. And now as an old man, I'm like, God, you young buck, why are you making this so hard for me?
Yeah, I remember having a few conversations with you several years ago about, hey, you ever thought about writing a 3-chord song just for shits and giggles? But I don't know.
We have.
I love.
We did the 3, or have you not heard? I've written several now. Probably newer shit than you've heard, but I have some.
You've got catalogs and catalogs
I remember-
of stuff I've never heard yet.
I remember calling you up late one night. I had written Miles Above, the verse and the pre-chorus, and I was obsessed with it. And I couldn't come up with like a chorus. And I was like, the pre-chorus is pretty damn good. Miles Above is on the Painkilled Nation album on the YouTube channel. And I went over to your house. And I was like, tell me the truth. Like, is this pre-chorus good enough? And you listened to it and you're like, yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty strong as it is. And I went home and I just kept thinking about it. And that was years before it ever got finished. And I never introduced it because I felt like something was going to come along. And then I woke up one Saturday morning and I had this chorus just in my head. It's like, man, that's really fucking good. And that was back when I used to like piecemeal songwrite, where I'd write pieces and I'd keep them in a folder.
Mm-hmm.
And I go and I write this chorus, and I was kind of feeling lazy. I was like, I don't really want to write a song. Do I already have a song that needs a chorus in D that's in 4/4?
Yeah.
And I went and looked, and just immediately Miles Above hit me. I was like, I bet that fucking fits. And it did. And it was like a 2 or 3 year span where it had just
Was
been
it that long?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, because I wrote it right after Carry Me Home came out. It's like 07. It might have been.
That's
A year or
another
two.
one that I like the solo on that one.
Oh, I love that solo. Do you remember how hard it was to get Gary to agree to that song?
No,
Oh yeah, he fought it.
really.
Yeah, he didn't like it. He wasn't hearing that
Oh, yeah.
but you know, like he wasn't hearing. But then once he heard it, he really
Clicked.
loved it. Yeah. But that's a weird kind of a deal.
Mhm.
The way that, because the lead guitar comes in first, and then it does that syncopated
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Those things are neat. Just doing and having a good band, you can play around. You know, if you have a drummer that's creative, he's going to do creative shit
Mhm.
that's going to change the way the song arranges.
Yep.
You know, you talk about the first time I play these, just strumming them up there for you guys. You guys are all thinking, okay, how can I add to this? What can I do? That's why having a second guitar player that's really good takes a huge burden off of me, because I know you're not going to be copying me. I don't have to worry about saying, hey, do something, you know, like babysitting.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've had to do in the past. It's like, hey, don't just play the same fucking thing I'm playing. You know, like I don't have to worry about it. I'm like, Johnny's going to do something that's going to be fucking cool. And it's going to add to the song, and it adds 3 dimensions. Like I could theoretically record an album by myself, but it's going to sound very flat and 2-dimensional because it's my brain. And like you were saying earlier, you have your style. I have my style on drums and bass and guitar and lead guitar and vocals, right?
Right.
So it's going to be my style on every song. Whereas you get 3 other dudes in the room, and they have their own styles, but we're also kind of, you want to impress each other, I think, to an extent.
Yeah.
You want to bring something to this track.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to bring a good song to you guys that you can work with. And, you know, we've obviously had stuff that's come to the table that didn't make it. Or a good example was, you remember the first time we played Ghost Town?
Not necessarily.
So, well, you know the riff and the verse. There was that, and then it goes into this like really ballad love chorus. And we played it and we jammed it, and then we got done, and you said, I'm going to offer a suggestion here. That might be 2 different songs. I was like, yeah, it's definitely 2 different songs, because it just went from this Alice in Chains vibe to like Michael Bolton, like that. And so it forced me to go home and rework it and rethink it and write that chorus.
Huh.
And, which made it way better.
Interesting. I do like the dynamic because we all listen to each other. Because I think we all have mutual respect for each other.
Oh, absolutely. We wouldn't be
If
together this
If
long.
I come in, this is kind of chiming back to my original concept. If I come in and you have this cool song, let's say it's something that's kind of grooving and melodic like Miles Above. And I come into the solo and I start just running these crazy scales in it.
Yeah.
And all this crazy crap that these guys are doing online now, y'all are going to just stop playing and stare at me and be like, that was cool, but what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, you definitely can tell you listen to the song, but you also do things I don't expect, which I like. It's like, that's tasty. That went in a different direction than, say, where my mind would have gone, you know? And that's nice. And does that come, I mean, had you done a lot of original solo writing before playing with us, or had you done mostly like cover stuff?
Some, no. I've been in some bands when I was younger, mostly, because later on, when I say later on, you know, when I was in my 30s and 40s, I was doing, by that time, mostly cover stuff.
Yeah.
Because you guys were the first original band I'd been in years. But back in my, I'm going to say, college days, I was in a couple of different bands that we did some of our own stuff, and so I had to write my own solos back then.
You got any recordings of those?
No, Lord no.
So when you wrote the solos for Carry Me Home, you were dusting off some chops, having to think creatively.
Oh, it was all brand new.
What a fucking slam dunk, dude.
All brand new. And
Every one of
it
those solos
challenged
is
me,
awesome.
which I loved it, because I'd have to go, from, some ripping solo to something like Wrong or.
But man, your Southern guitar is so like you also have different, like you can play Southern rock about as good as anybody. You call yourself a shredder, but like your guitar work on Wrong and Heart and that kind of song
that's
is masterful.
And I'm going to say within, since I got with Durham, and then I played in that other band a couple of years ago that was we called it literally a red dirt band. We did red dirt and country.
Mm-hmm.
That really.
Did you play guitar or bass in that one?
I played guitar.
Okay.
And
You played in another band.
Broadened my. I'm not going to call it chicken picking because I'm still not anywhere near a chicken picker, but
Right.
I'm going to say it really helped me with my Southern style playing a lot. So I think if.
But you always had
that
a
was
natural
after we'd
ability
written everything. So if we were to come back and write something now that had a Southern feel to it, I feel like I'm more apt
Yeah.
now than I was when we did Carry Me Home.
You should come out and jam with me and Walter. We've worked up almost the whole next 2 albums. Just me
Really?
and him, yeah. And we're kind of at a point where it's like, well, we need a guitar and bass, like to do anything. But yeah, if you want to come over some nights, we'll show you some Southern rock shit.
That'd be cool.
We've got several.
I'll be up for that. I need to get out of the house. I need to get that, the Kemper. I told you I switched it because when we played Durham Fest this last summer, there was a Marshall profile that I was using that sounded decent. To me, it was decent. I've since loaded in a Splon profile, which I'm now using 100%. And I don't know if you're familiar with Splon amps, but they're custom built. They're basically hot rodded Marshalls. They're like Marshalls that go to 14.
We're up to 14 now.
They go past 11. These things go to
Right.
14. And they sound absolutely phenomenal. In fact, I'm half tempted to buy one just to have one, but I've got a Splon model loaded in the Kemper now, and so.
And that stuff sounds great. I mean, the digital stuff. I mean, is it? I mean, you started
digital
out.
stuff sound, and that's interesting that you brought that. That's a great segue because I was going to actually talk a little bit about that. Because most of the guys that you see playing online that are doing all this crazy stuff are playing their digital Axe effects or their Kemper or their Helixes or whatever they're using, and they're running it straight to the DAW. And that's what these units are meant to be used as, and that's when they sound their best, is when they're running straight into a DAW. My Kemper, I could make sound like an absolute freaking dream running straight to a DAW.
Explain what a DAW is for people who don't know.
That is a software recording software that you have on a computer that has
What's
kind
that
of
even stand
replaced.
for? What's the acronym there?
I don't even remember.
I don't even know what it is.
But it's a way to record, and it's basically
Audio
primarily the new way
interface
to
from the
record anymore.
instrument. Yeah.
You don't need a full blown music studio anymore to record anything awesome if you've got a nice piece of software, aka your DAW, and you can, all these electronic units have USB outs that you run straight to computer, and then you record it straight into the computer, the DAW, and that's where these types of amps, I call them amps, they're processors, really shine. I'm kind of going against the grain by using my Kemper as an actual live rig, and the challenge that you have with using them that way is they're solid state, or at least the amp in the Kemper is a solid state. So what I have at bedroom volume sounds it makes me rock hard. I mean, it just
Really?
sounds amazing. But when I turn it up to band volume, because it's solid state, the tone changes.
it shifts.
The bass really
Big time.
gets boomy. You lose compression. There's a lot of dynamics that you lose when you crank it up to band volume, and that's so. Where I was going with that is I'd be interested in coming out and jamming with you guys so I could spend some time with it.
Oh, that'd be good for
at
you
higher
too. Yeah.
volume, so I could tweak it
Oh,
because it's all in the EQing. I know I can EQ that thing to make it sound just as good loud, but I can't do that at home with a family, and our house isn't.
dude,
a
Walt would
five-story
come
mansion.
unglued if you came out here and jammed with us.
And that would be fun for you guys, and that would be helpful for me
Yeah.
because I could tweak it.
That sounds like a deal.
but the
He asked me one time. He goes, "Do you think you could ever get Johnny to get out here and jam with us?" I was like, "Yeah, probably."
yeah,
So
absolutely.
we've had a lot of shit going on. We just went through fucking football and robotics. There's always a fucking season, and then it's a lull right now. So we're
Mhm.
gonna have some time to jam. Because robot's almost over. The competition's on the 25th, and then of course Gary's kid will be out here soon. I hope. So we can start getting ready for Durham Fest 3. We need to get a set list
Mm-hmm.
together.
I like the fact that you're thinking about some other stuff that was good that we didn't do in the last one. Miles Above and some other things.
Well, it's fun that you can put a playlist together. Back when we were playing every weekend, it was like let's just play the same fucking thing we did.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got lazy because you were
Yeah.
just in a hurry.
We've got enough stuff over the years that we played.
But now we can tailor a nice set. We can change
Mm-hmm.
the covers up. What do you think about Gary doing all this singing?
I don't mind it.
Is he trying to replace me?
I don't mind it.
Is that what he's
Probably.
doing?
Probably.
He is sexier than me. He's got that.
He's
got
a
like
sexy beast.
he's got like 4 inches on me,
He's a sexy beast.
height wise. I think it's fun, man.
Right.
I think it's fun
Height wise.
because I love playing drums, and he's always wanted to do
I
this.
don't mind it as long as it's a song that fits what he can do.
I think the ones we've got are great. I think
the couple that we've had him do, I think he did better at Brand New Man than what was the one that he was going to try to do this last time. It was there was a different song. I thought he did really good on Brand New Man.
no, Brandy Man's he does really good. What was the other one?
I don't know, I can't even remember because he nixed it, didn't he?
Okay.
Or
Did
did he
he?
actually
No,
do
we
it?
played it.
What did we play?
We played it. I've got the set list over here somewhere. Golly. Only 2 damn songs. Can't remember. Durham Fest 2. She's Mine.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, She's Mine. That's right.
I think it's fun.
Yeah.
It's kind
I
of neat.
mean, really, as long as you don't mind it, that's really the key.
I love playing drums, dude. I really love playing drums. That gives me an opportunity, a couple tunes,
Mm-hmm.
get back there.
Yeah.
And I'm not great, but I love it. You
Yeah.
know?
I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, it's a fun new thing we introduced,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And Gary said he'd always wanted to do that, and now he's done it twice.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
you have no ambition to sing?
nope. You don't. My voice has a weird tone to it that it's not geared towards. I've tried lead singing, and it's not a matter of pitch or anything like that. It's just the tone of my voice is not a naturally good singing tone. And when I hear myself sing, I cringe beyond anything. I mean, I'm just like, it's not anything you want. It's not what you want.
So you're a hyper
you do not
perfectionist.
want me singing lead.
You have been on the quest for the holy amp since I've met you, and you've
Mhm.
found it many times. This is the one. This is the one. What keeps you on that quest? Is it more about the journey than the destination, or do you think you will or have found it?
I think it's a little bit of all the above.
Okay.
I think a little bit of it has to do with my tastes change.
Fair. Yeah.
That's one thing I like about the Kemper is, okay, I can jam on the Splon for a while, but dang it, I feel like playing a Mesa Boogie. I've got a killer triple rectifier that I've loaded in that sounds pretty killer. I've got a killer 5150 that I've loaded in. I've got a killer Bad Cat if I want to do some bluesier stuff.
Yeah.
That's the nice versatility that I get out of that particular, and what people get out of the Kempers, again, the Helixes and the Axe Effects, is just that total. You can have a gazillion boutique amps in one unit, whereas you go out and buy these amps individually, you have to be rich to do that.
There's no way. Well, unless you're some mega rock star.
In all honesty, though, I think my ultimate tone has always been, and what I'm always striving for, is that ultimate overdriven killer Marshall sound. And that's, like Nuno Betancourt runs a Marshall and some pedals. Now the thing about the thing I don't like about that is you have to use pedals to get that really, because a Marshall's only going to go so far in the gain, and they get kind of boggy and whatever, unless you have them turned to 11, which will blow your neighbor's windows out because they're just so loud. And so, since the 80s, that's been the staple, is a Marshall. Back then it was the JCM 800, and now it's the dual, the triple lead or the JVMs. But you still got to push them pretty good, and you've got to have a pedal in front of them to tighten them up.
Okay.
And so it's having to have all that stuff. Now, coming back around to the Splon amps, they sound fantastic by themselves. I've listened to enough videos of just people demoing them online, and I'm like, that's what I'm looking for without having to have a bunch of pedals. And so I may one day end up owning a Splon amp.
Well, if you find something you really like, and then you
comes,
say, this is something I want to get the real deal,
if it comes to a point where I need a real amp like that.
But you get to test drive it all.
Yeah.
So if there's something that's like, this is really what I want,
yeah,
and you really want to get one nice physical piece.
So yeah, if I were to buy one today, it definitely would be a Splon, for sure, hands down, no doubt.
But see, I think one of the things that makes you a real guitar player, as I would put it, is you have this passion for the guitar, for the sound it makes. You talked about you just love to go in and play.
I'm just a tone dude. I'm weird that way.
But you're like, I want to play my guitar and I want it to sound like this. Like, we're so
But
different in that aspect.
If it doesn't sound a certain way to me, like if I'm on stage and there's something going on and my tone isn't where I want it to be, that's where my brain goes.
And that's the way you fuck up all the time?
Yes.
It's because you're distracted with a goddamn
yes. tone? 100%.
I've got my own distractions too. That eats me alive.
Tone can be a distraction to me. If it doesn't sound like I want it to sound, I'm messed up for the night.
That's why we got to sound check you proper.
If it sounds great, then my playing's great because I'm not thinking about my tone. I'm thinking about my playing.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
I'm weird that way. I'm just a tone junkie.
Which is so funny because to me, the guitar is just a necessity. I need it to deliver a song. I'm obsessive about the song the way you are about your tone.
You have your tone.
Well, I stole it from Greg, but yes.
Right, but it's your tone, You like it. It works for everything that you do.
And it remains a constant through our
Yeah.
music. So while you're able to play around it, I'm keeping that
Yeah.
through line.
Absolutely.
Right? It allows me to be lazy and focus on songwriting and not tone.
Right. And I can go out and cheat on my wife and be a slut and try different amps and.
Yep. Exactly. That's a good metaphor. Because I thought it really is because
I'm
I
a
am.
tone slut.
Yeah, dude, you coined another term. We've got power slop, we got southern fusion, now we got
Tone slut.
tone slut.
Can we name
Nicole,
our next album?
you gotta
that?
get some-
Tone Slut?
I think that's a fantastic album
Or at
title.
least have a song in there called that. I don't know.
That's putting me in a weird position writing that song called Tone Slut. But it'd be fun. You know, I like songwriting.
Says the man who wrote Minuteman.
Yeah. I wrote Man in Downtown in the same night on that red laser.
Really?
Yeah, it was the only. I wrote a few songs on it, but we didn't do any other ones. But yeah,
You wrote those on that thing?
yeah. You've heard the story about when me and Greg were auditioning Gary, right? And Gary came over and have you played on that thing? It's got a humbucker in it.
Keep talking.
Well, yeah. So
for the sake of the
yeah.
anybody watching this, when we're talking about the red thing that he wrote these songs on,
It's an Erlewine
This-
laser.
is the red thing he's talking about.
Yeah, my dad got that on trade. I thought it was like a kid's guitar, and I looked up the value a few years ago, and it's like a Johnny Winter signature deal. They're worth a lot of money. They're very rare.
I'm gonna put that in a way.
They're silly looking, and they've got the tuning
Falls
key.
off,
Yeah,
please
no,
don't
you're
blame
good.
me.
The weight will hold it up.
Feels like it's on there good.
Yeah, it is. But the fucking tuning keys down at the bottom, and they're hard to turn. The neck's short.
Oh, that thing's great.
It-
I want to play that thing on one of our songs.
Dude,
Next
why don't
time
you
we
play
play.
that on Minuteman?
Now that would be classic. I may have to do that.
But yeah, Gary shows up, and I'd given him a demo of the August because that's what me and Greg had
Right.
done, and it's mostly acoustic kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he rehearsed it. He came out. We jammed. It was a great session. And me and Greg were like, we didn't even have to talk about it. We're like, yeah, this is it. We're like, what do you think, Gary? And he was like, well, I want to, you know, I really like your songs and everything, but I want to do, you know, just a little bit more just rock, you know, just be a rock band, you know. We can do stuff like this, but I just make, you know, keep it rock heavy. And it was like this tunnel vision over like the course of my entire career. I was always trying to pigeonhole. It's like I've got to be the Nirvana guy, right? Like when you're a 15-year-old kid, you're like,
Yeah.
I've got to sound like that. And then you broaden it, but it's like, well, it's got to sound like Creed, right? And you're kind of like, you're chasing this thing and not just doing what you want to do. And then even then, after that, it was like, okay, now I just want to do weird acoustic shit. But weird acoustic shit is still a direction, right? It has to have that
Yeah.
criteria.
Yeah.
And that was the first time when Gary said that where it was like, fuck, just take the filters off, right? And just do whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'd love that. That'll give me, you know, let's just fucking do that and see where that goes. And Greg's like, I got a couple of songs. It's like, what? And Greg proceeds to rip out these fucking kick-ass riffs.
Yeah.
And that's what sold Gary. It was like, that's what I want to do. And I was so fucking burned, like just
But
so
that
showed
was-
up.
But if you think about it, that's the music that attracted me to you guys, because that's what I
Yeah.
heard.
Oh,
the first
Greg
time
is
I
a
ever saw
huge.
you guys.
Greg is so instrumental in this band, and his sound. And I wrote a song not too long ago. I want you to hear this one. This is a banger. But it wasn't sounding right, and I switched it to Greg chords, and it was fucking phenomenal. It gives me another dimension.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, he showed me up that day, man. He just embarrassed me. He just had these songs ready, and like this is why it's good. Like Lennon and McCartney probably had this kind of thing too, where I was so embarrassed. I went up in my room and I just wrote. I was like, I want to write a fucking better rocker than Greg, and like, you know, and so I wrote Downtown Living. I was like, I want to bring some G&R into it, but some '70s rock, and it's like you just have this vision and this focus. You can't always force it. But strong emotion is really what triggers a song anyway. So if you're angry, I guess that's probably what inspired it. But then it was like the tension broke, and it was like I got to do something light, and so I wrote Minuteman on that little fucking thing.
That's awesome.
Because I always write on acoustic. I think 99% of the songs I've ever written have been on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, you always start with acoustic.
Yeah. Because if you can't play it acoustic, I don't think it's worth playing, you know. If you just tune it to open C and drone it, you know, it's like going to sound good.
There's a lot of, a lot. Almost everything you hear anymore is drop D, if not drop C, and I'm like,
We're all snobs in our own ways.
gosh, can't we just go back to E?
Or learning chords. Like, I know kids who play guitar who don't know chords. They open tune and do this. I'm like, there's no depth to that,
Yeah.
you know. And like, Korn ruined. Well, there were several bands like you agree. Nirvana kind of ruined music.
In my opinion, yes.
I also think they're
But
fantastic.
there's a lot of people that love Nirvana.
I love Nirvana. I also think they ruined music. Like, two things can be true at once. But
they spawned Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters, which I love. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, but that wasn't a result of trying to copy Nirvana. That was him doing his
it
own
was
thing.
like, I'm
The
gonna
problem
do
was
the opposite of what Nirvana was doing.
Nirvana.
I'm actually write good songs.
Well, if you think about think about the four Seattle bands, the big ones, the big 4 Soundgarden was very sophisticated. Alice in Chains was pretty sophisticated.
So I like those bands.
Pearl Jam was a band right out of the 1970s. Nirvana was an outlier. They weren't that music. Kurt wasn't that talented as a musician. It was bar chords. He didn't have that great a voice, but he did more with 4 chords, in my opinion, than anybody has ever done with that simple of an approach. And that's always stuck with me. Like, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, it went from the 80s blazing guitars to really a simplified
But it was two kinds of
version of
evolution.
music.
You had the Soundgardens and stuff still being creative and pushing the boundaries, whereas Kirk was like taking it backwards. They were very different bands, and I think that probably led to a
very
lot of his own psychosis of being compared with these guys. The problem was he was so zeitgeist that he was influencing the next bands, and so the next bands are not learning beyond the 4 chords.
Yeah,
And they're not as good, and now it just becomes shit.
the
very
90s,
quickly.
The 90s and 2000s is a time period that I myself coined the death of the lead guitarist. Because if you could play 4 or 5 chords,
100%.
you're and just write catchy songs.
How many big guitar
Great.
players can you name out of the 90s? You got Jerry Cantrell, Noel Gallagher.
Out of the 90s?
Yeah, you got Dimebag, although they kind of started in the 80s.
Yeah, Pantera went way back.
I'm talking about bands that originated in the 90s, not like ones that carried over. I'm like, there's not just a ton that like.
No, because it was a time of,
Mike McCready, Pearl Jam.
In my opinion, he was decent. I would
None
not,
of them were like
I would not
insane.
put him in anywhere near.
I'm saying these are the last ones. These were like the last generation, like the Noel Gallaghers and the Jerry Cantrells. Since then, I don't know, but music's also changed so much. And I've gotten older and I've stopped paying attention.
It's gotten. I'm just gonna say it. I think it's gotten good again, and it's a mix of.
Well, how do you find
The
good music
guitarists
now? Because it's
that
not
are
like
just-
we listen to radio anymore.
Sirius XM, YouTube. Those 2 mediums alone.
Yeah, like what on
Is-
Sirius
is-
XM? Like
is-
what
is
change?
where-
Like
I mean,
what
it
do you-
depends. It depends
what are you
on what
dialing
you're looking
into?
for. You can. They've got several stations that are geared towards the newer, really heavy stuff, rock and metal, like Nitro. They've got. Anybody that listens to rock on Sirius will run circles around me on naming these things.
See, I don't even really
'cause
listen to
quite
music
honestly,
anymore.
mine's usually just set to Hair Nation or Ozzy's Boneyard. To be honest, that's pretty much where my Sirius XM lives. But if you're looking for some new cool stuff, Octane is another one. That's actually a pretty good one. You can hear some pretty good new stuff on Octane. But I've got a good friend who is just a music aficionado. He loves hard rock to metal, not blazing metal, but Cookie Monster vocals type stuff. But really just stuff like Volbeat type metal.
Oh yeah, Volbeat's
that kind of
fantastic,
stuff.
dude.
And he's always on the hunt for new bands and listens nonstop. He just loves music. Not a musician. He just loves to listen to music.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that.
He, if he finds some cool new band that he thinks that I'd like, he'll shoot me a text with a link. Say, hey, check these guys out. Check these guys out.
See, I don't even really listen to music anymore. Like, I just don't. I'm always listening to a podcast or trying to learn something new. I'm like, I don't know. I got checked out from it. It's like it's just not that big a part of my life until Durham Fest.
I don't listen. I mean, I only listen to music if I'm driving somewhere, and again, it's on my Ozzy's Boneyard or my hair metal. So I'll listen to music if I'm driving, or if I'm just in the mood to just jam at home, I'll throw it on YouTube, and it's got the algorithm. It knows a lot of what I like to do, and I'll just go through and just play along and jam with stuff I like to play. That's pretty much the extent of me listening to music.
Well, I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier, the death of the lead guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think the 90s killed it? Like, what do you think happened that caused the death of it?
Nirvana. And then,
that he could literally play the melody of the song as a solo and get away with it?
Bands, Nirvana hit it so big, then everybody wanted to be like Nirvana.
And be lazy.
And,
it really does.
So many bands arise back then, and if they didn't have solos,
Hold on.
there's some strange noises going on outside. Hey, he's going to check it out. Maybe it's who knows? Maybe there's an orb floating above us, and the dogs are barking at it or something. These UFOs and shit. Who knows?
Yeah, so going back to the death of the lead guitar, so basically Nirvana was able to play the melody of the song and pass it off as a solo. They're super influential, and
record labels, they follow the
want
money.
copycats, exactly.
They follow the money, and so all these bands started coming out that, I mean, again, as I was saying earlier, there were so many bands that if they did have any solos, they were so bad. I was like, really? That's a solo? Wow.
But then the guys that were doing it, and there were very few.
You still had the Soundgardens and the what was the other one you mentioned?
Well, Noel Gallagher was really good. Jerry had.
Alice in Chains.
I mean, they weren't shredders, but they were still at
tasty.
least playing lead guitar.
Yeah.
On pop music in the '90s, which not a lot of people were doing. And if they were doing, it was more of a theatrical thing where they'd play the melody, and it was like, that's not really a lead guitar player.
But I'll say this: the 2020s, the lead guitar is back, and it's back in a way that makes me want to put my guitar down, as I spoke about at the beginning of this thing.
Well, who are some bands? Who are you talking about specifically? Who should people check out to find the resurgence of the guitar?
Oh God! Well, again, a lot of this are players that I see. Again, I don't listen to a whole lot of music, but Gunshine.
Yeah,
check out Gunshine.
You've told me about them. I did check them out. That guy's voice gets on me a little.
It's a little. Their guitarist is.
No, they're phenomenal. That guy's voice. It's like Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah,
listen to Greta Van Fleet.
I do not care for Greta Van Fleet.
I've also heard all those songs before on the Zeppelin album, so
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really need to listen to them again with higher vocals.
I think Gunshine's a little more original. You got the Ghosts. You've got.
Have you've seen
Volbeat's
Ghost?
got their guitarist that's just killer.
I think he's gone. He left.
What?
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, they parted ways with that
I
dude.
did not know that.
I'm
where have I
super
been?
bummed about it. Yeah.
That is a bummer. I saw them a year. No, was it last year?
I think you
saw
told
them
me
in
that.
Ghost last year, I think.
Wait, you saw him at the same show?
Yeah,
Oh,
Ghost and Volbeat, same
God
show.
Dang, man.
Great show.
That's a stark contrast between bands because Volbeat's very Metallica style, just rock it out, right? It's not very
I
theatrical.
wouldn't compare them to Metallica at all.
I just mean in the sense that they just come out and rock. There's not like gimmicks on the stage.
No, you're right. They come out and they rock.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Ghost is about the production.
But Ghost is a
They
big
rock,
production. I've seen
and
Ghost.
It's a huge
Yeah,
production.
we saw him in St. Louis,
Um,
and it is a constantly moving. It's a
yes.
show.
Yeah, it's a show.
But the music is fantastic.
Yes.
And the live band is fantastic.
Yes.
And how much does that cost? This guy's probably, losing a lot of money by doing that.
Are you kidding me? They pack arenas.
Well, I know, but think about how much that costs. He's willing to put on this production because he loves it.
I guarantee he's making money.
Yeah.
more than we are.
Maybe that's what. No, I know that, but I'm just saying he could just come out there and play the music and people would go to the show. But he's adding on all these elements, and the ticket prices aren't going up. That's what I'm saying.
Has always been the production, the storylines, the papas, they made it their.
There's literally a backstory to a fictional band. Yeah.
I mean,
in different timelines.
And it's genius if you think about it. And they happen to write killer songs.
So how do you reconcile your Christianity with listening to a faux satanic
songs
band?
I won't listen to. There's certain songs that I will listen to, and certain songs I won't listen to.
Okay, so you just negate the ones you don't want to listen to.
Correct.
There you go. That's fair.
Because
they're a phenomenal band. Just the creativity behind every element, and you really dive into the drums, the bass, every piece of their music.
You need to check out Skillet.
Wait, not the old '90s Christian band.
They are bigger than ever and better than ever.
Seriously?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And they've got 2 girls in the band,
I took a left turn.
and they rock. They rock, and they're bigger than they've ever been.
Skillet. I remember that first album that literally had the Skillet.
Oh,
on the cover.
you gotta check them out. They're on fire right now.
Did you like Our Lady
I didn't dislike them.
They're
They're decent.
they-
I like that genre of music. I call it the power punk. The Our Lady Peace, the Blink 182s, the All American Rejects. They're a good handful of.
I'd say Our Lady Peace was a lot more
Great.
sophisticated than those other bands.
Probably.
They had a drummer, Jeremy Taggart, that is in my top 5 all-time drummers. Nobody knows who this guy is.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the driving force of that band because when he left, they done more albums without him than they did with him. But when he was with
better
them,
with them.
oh, they were great with him, and they are terrible without him.
Oh, that's sad.
It was everything to that band. I don't know if he pushed them or he wasn't on the songwriting credits. He wasn't writing the songs, but he was that drummer that they could do anything with.
You can listen to early Green Day. Their drummer was wicked.
I have never been able to get into Green Day at all. I tried.
I used to be a big fan. I'm just gonna say politely, I'm not anymore. But I used to be a big fan of theirs.
Is that a
their
political
drummer
thing or
was
the
wicked
musical
fast.
thing?
Political.
So it's a weird thing, right? Because
When you go too hard one direction,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're gonna lose.
There is a lot. No, I get it, but it's also a weird deal where it's like Eddie Vedder's a big liberal, right? Like the anti-Bush and all that shit, which Bush was a piece of shit in my opinion.
Right.
But like, do you not listen to Pearl Jam because he disagrees with you politically? No. But then, like you said,
I still listen to Green Day.
if it gets, sometimes it gets so
Listen to
wild
older
because you,
stuff.
well, it's harder with like acting. Like with music, it doesn't bother me as much, but acting bothers me because you see their faces coming out and saying, "I hate you." You know,
Yeah.
you're the
I
half
just-
of America
I
that's
really-
trash,
really
and then you see them in a movie and it's hard to disassociate.
wish bands would leave politics out.
I
of
wish everyone would leave politics out.
it. Yeah, the whole entertainment industry needs to drop politics, and I think there's a lot of people that agree with that.
Oh, I think most people agree with that.
Just do yourself a favor and shut up. Keep your politics to yourself and do what you do and go out and entertain.
You watching the NFL this year? Keeping up with it?
I've watched some. I watched Denver get annihilated a couple days ago.
Man, it was close going into half, though. Like, they had a chance to tie it right into halftime, and they missed that kick. It bounced off the upright.
Yeah. And then I laughed when Kansas City laid an egg and just let Denver run all over them.
Well, I mean,
that was...
they were resting, like, their first and second string, but it was...
Yeah.
It was good to see. It's good to see. It felt right. So you're obviously in the Kansas City haters group with everyone else in the country.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
his
funny
point.
because my stepson is a avid Kansas City fan.
Oh, my sister is too.
So we have that dynamic going on at home.
Yeah. It's so funny. But you know, that's a good example of like a healthy rivalry. Like
Yeah.
there's the people who
Yeah.
hate the Chiefs or you love the Chiefs.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah.
But like
It's-
I've been a Denver fan since I was a kid. So like I've hated the Chiefs my entire life. This isn't anything new,
I never really
but it's been
disliked
renewed.
them. They were just sort of a neutral team to me. I think it's the whole Taylor Swift and Kelsey thing that blew up that made me be like, no, I'm done with this already. And, now they're America's favorite team because, what group now likes, what big, huge American group likes Kansas City now that never even knew anything about them before?
Well, let's
Taylor
talk about
Swift
that
fans.
for a second. Like, nobody likes their space invaded, right? So, as an NFL fan, it's like all these Swifties are part of this group now. No, get the fuck out of here. But from the NFL's point of view, it's like we got
Ratings.
twice as many people
Ratings.
watching, motherfuckers. Have fun.
Yeah.
But it has created some pretty fun tensions and rivalries. Like it's
Yeah. Just
it's almost
get
like-
the Kelseys off of every other commercial I see on my TV, please.
we got to get away from celebrity, man. Why do people worship
I
celebrities?
don't know. That's always been a baffling thing to me.
Creating a god, like a human god. Like celebrities who are talented, like let's say a Chris Cornell, I respect the shit out of, but I wouldn't like look to his personal life to lead me in any way. You know what I mean? It'd be
But
like,
this
I
goes-
respect your craft, but I don't give a fuck who you are as a person.
This goes back many, many, many years. Look at what the Beatles
All the
did.
years. Yes.
Back in the 50s, 60s, how women would just cry and scream, and I'm like, that's a band. They're people.
Dude, even if I got to meet Trump, I wouldn't be like fucking,
No.
it'd be like, this is a fucking sick moment, like this is
Yeah.
this dude,
Yeah.
But he's just
There's-
he's just another human being.
There's one human in the history of ever, that I will idolize. One. Jesus Christ. Only one I will ever idolize.
There it is. There's a renewal of faith right now. A lot of renewed faith.
I like that.
A lot of we were talking about this right before we started recording, that the Billy Carson Wes Huff debate. So this guy that's been going around talking about basically denying Christianity and using a lot of his knowledge of ancient texts and stuff to back it up. Goes on a podcast with this guy named Wes Huff, who's actually a Christian scientist who has original copies of the Bible, who's read them in the languages, like knows his shit. This charlatan goes on and gets demolished by the Christian dude. And so basically ended his career. The guy tried to get the thing taken down. He went on a mad tirade on a live stream talking about how rich and powerful he was, and if you didn't get him, you were too stupid and poor to understand it. Basically career-ending kind of shit.
Yeah.
Had he not done that, it wouldn't have drawn that much attention to it. But after this, then it kind of blew up. And this Christian dude was on Rogan the other day, so it blew up to there. And now there's the Christianity is trending right now. It's really bizarre.
And I like that.
Like I'm not a devout believer as you are. I believe in the teachings and the principle, the values of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
But like the whole Son of God thing, that's, you kind of got to take that on faith. I mean, and that is the point of it.
That's the point of it.
That's the point. Yeah.
And
that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
One of my favorite passages in the Bible is Jesus is walking through this town and he's got these hordes around him, and there's a lady who has this bleeding problem, and we assume she probably got around, if you will, or whatever, but she's contract. Don't really know what the actual issue was, but she was very sick, and everybody shunned her. She's a sinner, she's a sinner, she's a sinner, she's sick, bleeding all the time, blah, 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 blah. Well, he's walking through this town, and she crawls through the multitudes, just reaches up and just touches the back of his garment that he's wearing, and he immediately stops, and he knows, but he's he always does things in parables. He makes examples, and he stops and he turns around and says, who touched me? Everybody in the crowd's like, not me, not me, not me. And at first she's like, cowers back, whatever. And then finally he keeps asking, and finally she fesses up and says, "It is I that touched your garment. I thought that maybe if I could just touch your garment, I could be healed." And his response is so amazing. He said, "You are healed, but it's not me that healed you. It is your faith in me that healed you."
Right.
That is the most beautiful
Yeah, it's powerful.
passage.
Have you never thought about being a pastor?
No, I'm not crazy about public speaking.
But you tell a very heartfelt story.
That's because I believe it.
I know.
If I believe something, then I
So-
feel like I can speak it with conviction. But no, you
So
know
you-
me for a very long time, and you know that that's something I very strongly and always have believed in.
Well, kinda. I mean, yeah, I knew it, but we never really talked about it. We always have a purpose when we're together.
Right.
We gotta.
Right.
We're there to do a job.
It's
There's some conversation in between, but it's kind of
it's
not long form
something
like
that
this.
I go around and just go up to people. If you don't believe, you're going to hell. You don't believe. I don't stand on sidewalks shouting, things like that. But if somebody asks, or if the opportune moment comes up for me to speak, or tell you what I believe and why, then I'll take those opportune moments and I'm happy to share.
So were you raised that way, or did you have like
Yeah.
a come to Jesus moment
No, I was raised that way.
and just always kept it?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised that way, and then we'll just say that I sort of veered left and sowed my wild oats through college and my younger, through my 20s and probably even some of my 30s.
So you did sow some wild
But-
oats.
Yeah, but as I got older, I got back to where I needed to be and reconnected, and
Well, what brought you back?
it wasn't anything specific. Not really anything specific. Just that it's always been there, and me recognizing that I've there's a term that they call Christians that sort of kind of not really fall away, but sort of fall away, and they're called lukewarm
Hmm.
Christians. I don't know if you've heard that term.
I have. Yes. Very well.
and
I know a lot of them.
if you read Scripture, God does not want you to be a lukewarm Christian. That
Mhm.
doesn't work, because what that means is you're trying to live right in the middle of being a Christian and being not a Christian. You're trying to balance the two. That's what a lukewarm Christian does. They believe, but they're not really following the path. Now, another interesting concept is demons, even Satan, they believe in Christ. They believe in God. So just believing doesn't make you a Christian. Because, again, Satan believes. Believe me, he believes. It's about getting right with God, following the path. Reading the Bible is your armor. You read it, pray, and you become closer to God. It's very difficult to explain if you've never been there, and that's why a lot of non-Christians don't understand it. They're like, why do you believe in all that faith stuff that was written 2,000 years ago? Well, the Holy Spirit, which I'm sure you've heard of also, part of the Trinity.
Yeah. I'm very well versed in it.
really moves inside you. And there's been a lot of debunkers that have been, that try to say, oh, it's just you got happy about something, you got endorphins going, and blah blah blah. But as a true believer, I can tell you it's not that. It's a beautiful thing to feel that, and that's why you can have such strong faith, is because you felt that. And until you have, you will never understand it.
I think anything that you don't fully understand, like, let's say you don't have mental illness or addiction issues. Someone that does is foreign to you because they've never had those issues. They don't understand it.
You can be a Christian and have addictive issues.
No, I'm saying somebody who doesn't have addiction problems can't understand addiction.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
That's
they
a good
just
analogy.
they haven't experienced it.
Mhm.
It's not that they, don't want to understand, but they just haven't experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
It's just
And,
you've had a particular. Yeah, I get it.
And people are like, question. Hypocrisy comes up a lot. How can you be a Christian and say you're a Christian and still drink beer or whatever, whatever the things it is you do? Well, that's because we're not perfect and we still sin.
Well, I think a lot of the hypocrisy comes from Christian to Christian too. There are factions among factions, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of nastiness, and people from the outside looking in saying, man, these people say one thing and they just all do another.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bad look.
Right.
But those are people, not the religion. And, right? You got to separate the people from what the religion actually... They're not practicing the religion on.
I'm actually going to take a step back and say, I don't like religion.
Yeah. That's the problem, I think.
And, you know, there's a lot of churches that...
I'm with you.
Don't teach correctly, don't teach well, maybe, or
I feel like they try to act as a gateway to God.
And
Almost a gatekeeper. Like, you got to come through the church. You got to go to church in order to get to God, where it's like, shouldn't God be a personal relationship?
It's exactly what it is.
And it's my personal relationship.
Yes.
I don't need to have your experience or your
Exactly.
experience.
Yes.
Whatever mine is, as long as I have one, that's my thing.
Exactly.
All right. We're resonating, brother.
Yeah. No, that you're spot on.
Okay. I can get along with that.
I haven't been to church in a good while.
I've had too many people tell me, you're not a Christian unless you go to this church and believe this.
That's
Believe
wrong.
this. And it's like, man, you're defeating the whole purpose. You don't get it. You know, it's like you don't even understand your own religion as well as I do, and I'm not preaching it to somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you, brother.
It's
a personal thing.
It's very...
You connect very, and I can get along with you there as long as you can leave the religion thing out. Yeah.
Oh,
There's parts of the Bible that really resonate deeply with me,
mm-hmm.
and that come from thousands of years ago and still hit you hard today.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So there's a lot of reasons my journey has been the way it is. So I can't really chalk it up to one thing or one defining moment.
So
you know, there are people that can, and their stories are amazing.
well, with all the end time talk and the election and everything, the whole Wes Huff debate, I had a pod come out pretty recently talking about Revelation with a guy who came on and
I have a very strong interest in Revelation too. By the way.
You need to watch
Never
this
really brought that
podcast,
up.
dude. It's gotten a lot of views in a short amount of time, and he basically brought over a PowerPoint and was going through all the different interpretations and what different classes of people or groups of people, I should say, believe. Some people think it's already taken place. Some people think it's yet to come. Like,
No,
what is your...
It's very simple. Jesus said, and this is not Revelation, but Jesus said that he will come back in the blink of an eye, and every man on earth will know that I am the Son of God, who I am, what I am, and it's going to happen in the blink of an eye, referring to his second coming. Have you seen an event like that happen? Where everybody's been like, oh crap, I was wrong, or oh, that hadn't happened.
Hmm.
It's that simple. Now, there are other things that have got to happen. There is the whole pre-trib, post-trib
Yes, and that's what Chris talked about.
debate.
Yeah. Yeah, he went deep into
The
that.
thing is, if you ask me about that, I'm just going to honestly say I don't know. But you know what?
See, that's where I'm at. I don't know.
But my backup statement to that is it doesn't matter to me.
Right. It really shouldn't.
Whether it's post-trib or pre-trib, it doesn't matter to me.
It shouldn't. That's fair.
Um,
I kind of feel like it. I think it's still coming. I think it's all prophecy. I believe in that prophecy.
do you?
Yes, I do, or I want to. Like, I've got faith. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got faith in Revelation. Like, it's going to go down just like that.
You know.
But a lot of people in every generation have said the same thing. Like, this is happening, right? And this is right out of Revelation. Pat Robertson used
There's
to be
a lot
famous.
going on right now.
I know, but I know. It's crazy right
lot
now.
going on right
But
now.
we're not the first ones to say that. You know what I mean? They've been saying that every generation. Like, think about World War I at that time, or World War II at that time.
Was Euphrates River dried up back then? Nope.
No, is it now?
Were the red heifers sent to Israel back then? Nope.
Do they have them now?
Yep.
Did they get them out of Texas?
That is the.
Did they get them out of Texas? Is that
Yes.
Okay. So that is real.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I've been looking into
They
that.
have
Yeah.
the red heifers. They're waiting for them to be of the proper age
Right.
to sacrifice them, and that signifies the beginning of the third temple that they're planning on building in Israel. That has yet to happen. So there's certain things that really.
Do you think Israel is fighting so hard right now for their own sovereignty to clear the way for this to happen?
Israel, it's a very interesting thing, and I don't know
Because
how
Jesus
it's
is
gonna
supposed to come
happen.
back in an instant, and you're not going to know when or how. Yet all these things have to happen first.
Another thing that's got to happen. One of the things that had to happen has happened, and that's Israel had to come back to being a state. That happened in 48.
Right.
Another thing that's going to happen is Israel, the people of Israel, Israelites, the Jews, are going to have to come back to Israel and then realize that Jesus is the Son of Man, and all that kind of goes in conjunction with the temple and all that. So that's why Israel is so important, because there's so many things that have to happen and are happening before the Son of Man comes back, and the desolation. Term I'm looking for is when the Antichrist is eventually going to stand in that newly built third temple and proclaim himself as Christ.
Right. Do you think we're in part of that now?
We're headed there.
Is the Antichrist here?
Probably.
Do you think we know who they are?
There's a lot of people that speculate. I'm going to honestly say I have no idea who it is.
Yeah, I don't think there's any obvious. I know a lot of people.
There's a lot of people that think they know.
Yeah. Okay, we're
sure
just having fun here.
I'm not sure anybody knows yet.
We're just having fun here. Who have you heard the most? Like, I hear Obama all the time. Because I'm a very religious family. I hear Obama thrown around a lot.
I've heard his name thrown around. Of course, I've heard Trump thrown around.
I've heard Trump a lot.
The King of Spain.
I've heard
No,
Hillary
France.
probably the most.
It's the King of France. Was it Spain or France?
Macron? The Prime Minister of France?
There's another guy. I don't know his name. I can't pronounce it. But in the last 5 years, he has come out of nowhere and arisen in the Jewish community. And the Jewish people over there are just gaga over this guy because
Ben Shapiro?
he knows. No. Good one.
Sorry,
but
saw an opportunity.
He apparently knows the Torah and the Bible inside and out. Is super, 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 and this is according to the Jewish scholars who've studied this stuff their whole life, are in awe of this gentleman. And he's a young guy. I think he's in his 20s. I don't know his name. I've heard it, but there's been some speculation around him. So right now it's all speculation.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Certainly.
Nobody's going to know until his 3.5 years of whatever reign that he is going to be holding or is holding or whatever happens. Because the tribulation, and that's during the tribulation period, because it's 7 years. First 3.5 are going to be good. The second 3.5 are going to be hell on earth, basically. And he's going to reveal who he is, and that's when everybody will know. So I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that because, again, it's speculation.
Yeah, it is. It's also interesting how history kind of repeats and rhymes itself, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see these threads through history that the rises and falls of empires and things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this is on such a cosmic scale. It's really fun to ponder, though. Like you said, you don't know.
Oh, it's fascinating.
But it's one of the most powerful, moving books I've ever read. Because you don't know what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's these just galactic images beyond your understanding. You know, the way they describe the seven-headed beast and all this stuff. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean?
That's referring. Usually, I've read a couple of books on it, and a lot of that is people believe they're referring to countries or nations.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chris, watch the Revelation episode that Chris did on my podcast recently. It's he really breaks it down. You might learn something. You might disagree with him, but check it out.
I'm not a scholar by any means.
I'm not either.
And
I'm
not proclaiming to be a know-it-all.
I'm not an expert on it. I'm just fascinated.
I know
with it.
just enough to be fascinated by it, but also be alerted by it.
Sure.
Things to look for.
But it's fun.
One of the big things, you know, was it Peter that asked Jesus? So when is the second coming going to be? And Jesus' answer was, well, or part of his answer was, well, it will be when it will be like as in the days of Noah, meaning people are going to be acting in a way that they were back in the days of Noah. And that goes to so many things that you see in society today. You know,
Like what?
everything. Porn's okay. Being a trans is okay. You know, the acceptance of, you know, all these things that God tells people not to do are okay now. People mocking God, especially celebrities, that's gotten huge. Mocking God. Just so many things, you know, people just not believing, people mocking, people, you know, scoffing. If you're, it's interesting that you say you see a resurgence of Christianity, but at the same time, on a bigger scale, it's becoming not cool to be a Christian in a lot of people's eyes. Maybe not yours.
Well, no, I'm just saying we might be having. We obviously have different perspectives. The perspective I have and the things I'm watching, I'm feeling a resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what you're seeing is not.
Because
when Joe Rogan has on a Christian guy, the whole meme is like Joe Rogan just facilitated like the resurgence of Christianity, right? Because this guy went on. Look into West Huff.
There's a term, and it is Jesus is gathering his bride. That is, I think that's what you might be seeing. Because
Gathering
people
his
who
bride. What is
his
that
bride
from?
is a metaphor for his Christian followers. And there's supposed to be Jesus starts gathering his bride. It's like people that might be lukewarm are all of a sudden starting to feel like, man, I got to get right. That kind of thing. And strong, and people that are right are going all out more than you've ever seen them. I think that's part of what Jesus referring to is when I'm preparing my bride. I'm preparing my followers and letting them know it's time to get ready. So that's what that means.
Well, man, if you look at China and Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, Gaza, Israel, I mean,
Israel's not going to fall.
No, I'm just saying it's a major conflict that has major world interests involved in it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
entire Middle East is against Israel.
Yeah.
It's not a cupcake job for
No.
Israel. But there's conflict all over the world, man. For the first time in a long time.
There'll be wars. There'll be rumors of wars. There'll be famine. There'll be fires consuming. I mean, there's so many things that, and this is going back to Revelations.
Yes.
And Daniel. And all these things are really prominent. That's why you see so many Christians being like,
And Chris brought up a lot of parallels. I didn't realize there were so many parallels between Daniel and Revelation.
Oh, yeah.
Until Chris came on a couple weeks ago
Mm-hmm.
and was outlining that. So he's also kind of going back and forth between the two, which was
Yeah.
really fascinating to me. That there were so many kind of correlations.
Yep.
It's just fascinating. But man, it's neat. It really is.
We certainly went a different direction from starting off with online guitars.
Dude, all we
didn't
gotta do is talk about guns, and we can call this guns, guitars, and what else?
God, guitars, and
Guns, gods, and guitars. You got a personal firearm you like?
I've got two.
What's your personal favorite there?
I've got nice. In fact, it's funny because both of mine are 38s.
You like the 38?
I've got a Sig Sauer 38, and I've got a I bought this thing brand new about a year ago.
It's not an amplifier. It's not important enough.
I know. It's a major brand. Not Glock, but one of the other better brands. They make a really good 9mm. And it's actually
Ruger?
It's interesting. Not Ruger, but it's in that realm.
You said it was not a Smith & Wesson?
Not a Smith & Wesson. But it's actually it's a conceal and carry size, and it is the exact same gun. The 38 is the exact same gun as that same version of the conceal and carry 9mm. The only difference in this thing is, obviously the barrel for 9mm's got to be bigger. So what they did is they installed a steel tube into the barrel of the 9mm to make it work for a 38 bullet. So it's the same gun as a 9mm,
Nice.
but it's a 38 with that special tube in there. I've got pictures.
I got a belt buckle with a. Have you seen those little Derringer 22s? The little mini ones? Yeah, they make a North American Arms makes them. They're the size. I mean, they fit in the palm of your hand, but they shoot 22 long rifles.
Really?
They fit in a belt buckle. They got a magnetized belt buckle. This thing goes in there, and so you got basically a gun on your belt buckle. It's the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. I had to have it.
Yeah, I've got a nice little holster for mine that when I've got it on, if I'm wearing something like this, you can't tell I have it.
Arkansas is an open carry state.
I know.
I just don't ever see anybody carrying.
I always keep telling myself I mean to start putting mine in my truck just to keep because of
When the world
craziness
ends,
that's going on, and I just want self-protection. I
always got something close by, but I mean, like wearing in public, like you could wear a holster with a 45.
Absolutely, but
Long Colt in
I'd
it.
rather somebody didn't know I had a gun on me, because then hello, surprise.
The sexiest look to me of all mankind was like the cowboy 1800s. You know what I mean? Like
the holster hanging
the
down to
gunslinger
here.
age.
The gunslinger.
The gunslinger age, man. It was, I don't know. And those were tough fucking times, dude.
Oh, God. Can you imagine?
God, fight Native Americans.
Oh, there's a new
whole...
a new series on Netflix that just dropped that is about that time period.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be
Oh, I love it.
amazing.
What the hell is that called? Are you looking?
That's my
You trying to
Bursa.
find the
Oh,
damn gun you bought?
Bursa, that's my old one. Sorry.
You
That's not my new one.
you definitely need to know which gun you have, Johnny.
The Bursa is the original older one that I had.
I got you.
And I know I've got a picture of the newer one. Just so I can tell you what the freaking heck brand that stupid thing is. Can't believe it. I don't break it out very often, obviously.
Did you listen to any of the Pete Hegseth testimony today?
I didn't really listen to it, but I saw some clips of it on social media. And when he dropped Elizabeth Warren, would you, to do this, blah, blah, whatever it was that generals do, would you actually
Jagoff?
do this, blah, blah, blah? And his answer was, I'm not a general. And everybody in the room's like,
I haven't seen it. Did you see the Jagoff commentary? Oh man, there's a lot of it. I gotta go through it tonight. I really want to see it because I've got a lot of friends on the left that I respect that have posted some clips of him dodging questions. And that
in a hearing like that.
So like I just want to watch it for myself.
There are going to be some questions that are dodged.
No, 100% there are, but I just want to know what questions.
But
I just prefer to see that stuff myself.
I like him.
I like him too, and I know military guys that love him and that knew of him in the service, and I think he's great. I think he can fix this very easily. That it's not the people serving, it's the leadership, and that the leadership can just be replaced, then it's fixed like that, like pretty simple.
And that's
I don't have insight.
What Trump's administration is going to be doing is with the people that he's put in place. It's called working things out from the top down because they realized the top is messed up, and that's where it needs to be fixed is from the top.
I feel like we're on our first date and you're just playing on your phone all night.
Maybe next time I'll bring the gun out. I have pictures somewhere, but
Fucking with you. But hey, what do you think? You think anything's gonna happen between now and inauguration? You nervous a little bit?
I don't think so. If it hadn't already happened, I don't think it's going to.
Certainly a possibility, though.
I do expect us to get hit because there's so many sleeper cells.
How would they have gotten over here, though?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe,
I mean,
maybe the southern border.
No, we said it. Man, even if 1% of the people who come over here want to do ill will to our country,
that's enough.
Thousands of.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much. That's a whole nother podcast. Yeah, we'll probably start wrapping this one down. But yeah, that's a whole nother. But man, I feel like. I do want to touch on this real quick. Elon Musk. What are your thoughts?
Intriguing. I think he's very smart. I'm excited about Doge. I like Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think partnering those two, I think Vivek will keep him in check while they're doing their thing. Vivek
rhymes with
I think
cake.
he will keep him in check if he comes up with any too outlandish ideas.
Yeah.
I think Vivek.
But isn't that interesting that Trump paired them? It wasn't like he just gave it to Elon. He teamed them up.
Because Vivek will keep him in check.
And I think I think they can learn from each other. What an opportunity for Vivek Ramaswamy.
Absolutely.
I'm fucking partnered up with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
This is better than the presidency for him because he's a nerd. He's an engineer.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be president, dude. He wants to be
But
doing shit like
they're-
this.
They are
Solving problems.
two of the smartest people
Yeah.
in the entire administration, and they paired them together.
They're sharp. I don't like that they got money out of pharmaceuticals and stuff, you know, but I also
He was a businessman.
I don't know that he did anything illicit either. Just because you make money in a certain industry doesn't make you bad.
No.
You know, so I'm not educated enough on that. All I know is he's kicking ass right now, and I like what he's doing. I really don't, you know.
And they're going to find a lot of money.
Oh, they've already found. I mean, they cut our deficit in half right now,
Yeah.
just with bullshit.
And that's going to help make up for all of that money that we've sent to Ukraine and not northern or North Carolina, western North Carolina.
Well, Trump's an
again.
ego guy, right? He wants his legacy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
If you could eliminate the income tax, you would go down as the greatest thing that ever happened in this country.
I'm
And I think it could be
interested to
possible with who he
see
has in place.
if his tariff plan could actually make that work.
This could all go down in flames, people. We have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, it could go down in flames.
We are.
It could go down great.
We
don't
are
know.
hopefully optimistic
We're-
right now.
We're just speculation.
We
Nothing
think
but
our side
speculation.
won, and it's going to fix everything, just like everybody in every election thinks.
This is for entertainment purposes only.
Don't listen to. Don't even listen to this. In fact, just turn it off now. Don't share it. No, but man, we got to get the kid out here. We got to get going.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you want to keep this on the podcast. I can wait till after.
Yeah, we'll wait till after if you want to
Okay.
wait. We'll wrap it.
I got something to
Yeah, we'll wrap.
chat, but
All right,
on
brother.
that, bro. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
It was awesome.